What happens when one woman tries to cancel Christmas for an entire neighborhood? Well, she ends up learning the true meaning of it the hard way. Stick around till the end because what happened next will melt your heart. And hey, before we begin, if you love stories where kindness wins, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Tales Live for more heartwarming tales every week. It was the first week of December in the quiet suburban community of Willow Creek. Every year, the neighborhood turned into a glowing wonderland. Houses draped in lights, lawns filled with reindeer, snowmen, and shimmering stars. Children would run from yard to yard, laughing as the air filled with the scent of hot cocoa and pine. But this year, something felt different. Meet Karen, the new head of the Homeowners Association, meticulous, strict, and allergic to anything too joyful, as some neighbors joked. With her clipboard and icy smile, she marched through the neighborhood, inspecting every decoration like a general reviewing her troops. "These lights are too bright," she'd mutter. "That Santa inflatable exceeds height limits. And this," she'd point at a glowing nativity scene, "is not HOA approved." Across the street lived Tom and Lily Carter, a young couple with 2 kids, Max and Emma. Every December, their home became the highlight of the neighborhood, a glowing Christmas display that brought joy to everyone, especially the elderly residents who couldn't decorate anymore. Tom even built a small sleigh for the kids to ride in. It wasn't just lights, it was love, laughter, and community. But Karen didn't see it that way. One chilly afternoon, Tom was hanging strings of golden lights along the roof, while Lily played Christmas music on the porch. The neighborhood kids giggled as they helped unwrap candy canes to hang on the fence. That's when Karen arrived, clipboard in hand, heels clicking like a warning bell. "Excuse me," she called out sharply. "These decorations violate HOA regulations, specifically Section 12, Clause 4B, regarding excessive outdoor displays." Tom wiped his hands. "Clause what now?" he asked, confused. Karen adjusted her glasses. "It clearly states that all outdoor decorations must be minimal and uniform. This," she waved her hand dramatically at the glowing lights, "is neither minimal nor uniform." Lily stepped forward, trying to stay polite. "But everyone loves them, Ms. Karen. It's Christmas. We do this every year to bring people together." Karen's expression didn't soften. "Rules are rules. You'll need to take them down by tomorrow or face a $500 fine." Gasps rippled from the neighbors who had gathered to watch. Max's face fell. "But it's Christmas," the little boy whispered. That night, the Carter family sat in silence around their half-finished tree. The laughter that usually filled their home had been replaced with frustration. "How can someone hate Christmas lights?" Lily muttered. Tom sighed. "We can't afford a fine right now, but taking them down feels wrong." Across the street, Karen sat in her spotless living room, sipping tea. Through her window, she could see the faint glow of the Carter's lights still flickering. She frowned. "Rules are meant to be followed," she said softly. But for just a second, her eyes lingered on the tiny snowman in their yard, and something inside her shifted. A memory, faint and buried deep, of her father helping her hang lights when she was a child, long before life became all about order and rules. She shook her head and pushed the thought away. The next morning, a notice appeared on the Carter's door. "Final warning, remove decorations immediately." But Tom didn't move. He looked around at the neighborhood and saw the sadness spreading. Other families were afraid to put up their own lights. The street that once shimmered with joy now looked gray and lifeless. That's when he decided something needed to change. He smiled at his wife and said quietly, "If she wants a fight over Christmas spirit, she's going to get one." And that's when the real story began. Last time on Kindness Tales Live, and Karen, the HOA head, tried to ban Christmas lights in Willow Creek. But Tom Carter decided not to back down. What happens when an entire community stands up for kindness? Let's find out. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you believe Christmas spirit should never be silenced. The next morning, the air in Willow Creek felt heavier than usual. The once lively neighborhood seemed dull without the sparkle of Christmas lights. Parents hurried their kids to school in silence, and the smell of cocoa and pine had been replaced by the bitter chill of disappointment. But inside the Carter household, a quiet determination was brewing. Tom sat at the kitchen table, staring at the HOA warning letter. "If we take them down, we lose what makes this neighborhood special," he said. Lily nodded, her eyes fierce. Then we won't take them down. Not this time. Max and Emma peeked from behind the door. Are we in trouble, Daddy? Max asked softly. Tom knelt and smiled. No, buddy. We're just standing up for what's right. Christmas is about joy, not rules. That night, instead of removing the lights, Tom added more. He climbed up the ladder again, stringing new strands along the garage, the fence, even the mailbox. Lily baked cookies and brought them to the neighbors, explaining what Karen had done. One by one, the residents of Willow Creek began to remember why they loved this season. Not just for the lights, but for the way it brought everyone together. Old Mrs. Jenkins, who hadn't decorated since her husband passed, came outside with a small box of ornaments. I think it's time I dusted off my angel lights, she said, smiling at Lily. Soon more homes began to sparkle. One by one, lights flickered on, red, green, gold, and silver, until the entire block glowed like a beacon of defiance and hope. Karen saw it all from her window. She gripped her cup of tea so tightly her knuckles turned white. Unbelievable, she muttered. They're deliberately breaking the rules. She marched to her desk and typed an official notice to every resident. All unauthorized decorations must be removed within 24 hours or fines will be issued. But something strange happened. No one responded. Instead, people hung more decorations. Kids drew Christmas cards for Karen and taped them to her door with messages like, "Merry Christmas, Ms. Karen," and "Hope you find your holiday smile." At first, she ripped them down, but later that evening, she noticed one small card that stopped her in her tracks. It was from Max Carter, written in messy crayon. Dear Miss Karen, we put up lights so people who are sad can feel happy. Maybe you can come to our house and have cocoa with us. You might like it. Karen stared at the card for a long time. Something inside her softened, but her pride wouldn't let her show it. It's just a child's note, she told herself. Yet she placed it gently on her mantel instead of the trash. By the next evening, Willow Creek was glowing brighter than ever. News spread quickly. Neighbors from nearby streets drove by just to see the Christmas rebellion. Car horns honked in support, people waved, and laughter filled the air. Tom stood outside smiling, knowing they'd done something special. Then headlights appeared, Karen's car. She stepped out in her crisp suit, clipboard in hand. The laughter faded. Everyone waited. Mr. Carter, she said sharply, you are in violation of multiple HOA. But before she could finish, the lights flickered on all at once. Every house, every tree, every mailbox shimmering in unity. The air filled with gasps and applause. Even the air seemed warmer. Tom looked at her calmly. Karen, look around. These aren't violations. They're memories. They're hope. You can fine us all you want, but you can't fine people for being kind. For the first time, Karen didn't know what to say. Her voice faltered. The laughter of children echoed around her, and she felt something she hadn't in years. Loneliness. But behind that, a faint flicker of longing. She turned and left without another word, the sound of bells and laughter following her into the night. Previously on Kindness Tales Live, Karen, the strict HOA head, tried to ban Christmas lights, but the whole neighborhood stood together to protect their holiday joy. Now Karen's pride pushes her to the edge, and what she does next changes everything. Stick around. And if you love stories where kindness wins, make sure to like this video and subscribe right now. For a few days, Willow Creek glowed brighter than ever. The laughter, the warmth, the unity. It all made people forget about Karen's letters and threats. But for Karen, each light felt like a personal challenge, each song like an insult. She couldn't stand the idea that the neighborhood she controlled had turned against her authority. So, late one cold evening, she made a decision that would push things too far. Clutching her clipboard, Karen walked to the HOA office and typed out a formal notice. All non-compliant homes will face legal action and mandatory removal of decorations by community enforcement. Then she called a towing company, a maintenance crew, and even a lawyer friend, determined to prove that rules, not joy, ruled Willow Creek. The next morning, the sound of engines broke the peaceful hum of Christmas music. Trucks rolled into the neighborhood. Workers stepped out carrying ladders and tools. Tom and Lily rushed outside, confused. What's going on? Tom demanded. Karen stepped forward in her wool coat, voice cold and sharp. Per HOA enforcement, we're removing unauthorized decorations. You can't do that. Lily shouted. Karen crossed her arms. Watch me. Gasps erupted as workers began taking down lights, pulling reindeer from lawns and tossing them into the back of trucks. Kids cried as their decorations disappeared. Max ran to his snowman, hugging it tight. Please don't take Frosty, he begged. But the man gently pried his small hands away. Tom stood frozen, heartbreaking as the neighborhood sparkle dimmed one house at a time. You've gone too far, Karen, he said quietly. Karen didn't respond. But when she turned to leave, she caught sight of Max's face, his tears glistening under the last remaining strand of lights. For a split second, her hand trembled. Then she hardened again and walked away. That night, Willow Creek was silent. The air felt heavier without the glow of lights. Even the stars seemed dimmer. Tom sat by the window, staring at the dark street. Maybe we should have just let it go, he whispered. Lily shook her head. No, Tom, this isn't about lights anymore. It's about heart. She's forgotten what kindness looks like, and we have to remind her. The next day, a miracle began in the most unexpected way. When Tom went outside to fetch the mail, he found a note under the doormat, no name. Just a message written in neat handwriting. Don't give up. Meet at the community center tonight. Bring the lights. At 7 p.m., Tom and Lily arrived at the small hall near the park. To their surprise, it was full. Families, elderly neighbors, and even teenagers, all carrying boxes of decorations. The air buzzed with quiet determination. Mrs. Jenkins stood up and said, Karen might control the rules, but she doesn't control our spirit. Let's show her what Christmas really means. By nightfall, the entire neighborhood came alive with secret energy. They didn't hang lights on houses this time. They strung them across trees, along fences, even over the streets. Kids painted wooden signs that said, kindness can't be banned. And right in the center of the park, they built a massive Christmas tree, made entirely of donated decorations and memories from every family. It wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful. When the last ornament was placed, Tom flipped the switch. The park burst into light, brighter and more breathtaking than ever before. At that exact moment, Karen drove by. The sight stopped her in her tracks. She stepped out of her car, stunned. The entire neighborhood was gathered around the glowing tree, singing softly, Silent Night. For the first time, Karen felt something crack inside her armor. A single tear slipped down her cheek before she quickly wiped it away. But before she could say anything, a small voice called out, Miss Karen, we saved you a cookie. It was Max, holding out a plate of sugar cookies shaped like stars. Karen stared at him, speechless. Around her, people smiled, not mocking her, but welcoming her. She didn't know what to do. She turned and left without a word, but this time her steps were slower and her heart was heavier. Welcome back to Kindness Tales Live. Last time, Karen went too far, tearing down everyone's Christmas lights. But the community fought back with love, not anger. Tonight, everything changes. What Karen discovers will touch your heart. And before we begin, if you believe kindness always wins, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And that night, after seeing the neighborhood tree, Karen couldn't sleep. The image of the glowing park lingered in her mind. The laughter, the songs, the way even the cold winter air seemed to carry warmth. For years, she had buried herself in order and control, thinking that rules would keep her world perfect. But now she realized how lonely perfect really was. She sat on her couch staring at the crayon card Max had given her weeks before. Maybe you can come to our house and have cocoa with us, it said. She ran her fingers over the words, her throat tightening. What have I become? She whispered. The next morning, she got dressed not in her usual formal coat, but in a simple red sweater she hadn't worn in years. It was the one her late husband Daniel had bought her the Christmas before he passed away. She hadn't celebrated the holiday since. Maybe that's why she'd hated seeing others happy. It reminded her of what she'd lost. Karen took a deep breath and stepped outside. The morning sun reflected off the snow, and for the first time she noticed how beautiful her neighborhood really was. The laughter of children in the distance made her heart ache, but in a strangely comforting way. She walked toward the park, clutching a small box in her hands. Inside were her own Christmas ornaments, dusty, old, and forgotten. As she arrived, she saw Tom and Lily with their kids hanging more lights. The moment they spotted her, the air grew tense. Conversations quieted. Karen hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter," she said softly, "I owe you an apology." Tom exchanged a cautious glance with Lily. "You don't owe us anything." "Karen, you owe yourself a little grace," Lily replied kindly. Karen's eyes shimmered. "I've been so focused on rules that I forgot why this time of year mattered. She paused, her voice trembling. "I lost my husband 5 years ago at Christmas. I thought if I kept everything in order, I wouldn't have to feel that emptiness again. But seeing all of you, it reminded me of what I've been missing." For a moment, the crowd stood silent. Then Max stepped forward, holding a small string of lights. "You can help us hang these if you want," he said shyly. Karen knelt down, smiling through tears. "I'd love to, sweetheart." As she helped wrap the lights around the big tree, the tension melted away. The community that once saw her as cold now saw her as human. People started chatting, laughing, even offering her cookies and cocoa. Someone handed her a Santa hat and she laughed for the first time in years, a deep, genuine laugh that came from the heart. That evening, Willow Creek shone brighter than ever before. Karen stood with the Carters as the entire neighborhood gathered for the lighting ceremony. The giant tree sparkled with hundreds of twinkling bulbs, casting a warm glow across the smiling faces. Tom raised his cup of cocoa and said, "This isn't just about Christmas lights. It's about how one act of kindness can change a heart. Even when we disagree, kindness is what brings us back together." The crowd cheered and someone began singing "Joy to the World." Soon, everyone joined in. Even Karen, her voice soft but steady. She felt something she hadn't in a long time: belonging. After the music faded, Karen turned to Tom. "You were right. You can't fine people for being kind." He smiled. "No, but you can join them." For the first time in years, Karen looked up at the sky, not to check for clouds or rules or problems, but simply to admire the stars. And as the lights reflected in her eyes, she whispered, "Merry Christmas, Daniel. I think I finally understand." The neighborhood that once stood divided now stood together, united by compassion, forgiveness, and the simple power of light. Welcome back to Kindness Tales Live. In the last chapter, Karen finally opened her heart and rediscovered the true meaning of Christmas. But what happens next will bring tears to your eyes and remind you why kindness always finds its way home. Before we begin, if this story has touched your heart, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Tales Live for more stories that shine with hope and compassion. Snow began to fall softly over Willow Creek that night, blanketing the streets in glittering white. The Christmas festival at the park was in full swing. Children laughed as they built snowmen. Couples sipped hot cocoa and the air was alive with carols and warmth. For the first time in years, the neighborhood felt like one big family, and at the center of it stood Karen, her heart lighter than ever. She moved through the crowd with a smile, chatting, laughing, and helping kids hang paper stars on the community tree. People greeted her warmly, no longer with tension or fear, but with genuine affection. The woman who once tried to ban Christmas lights was now stringing them up herself. As the night grew deeper, Tom tapped the microphone on the small stage near the tree. "Everyone," he called out, "we want to thank someone special tonight, someone who showed us that it's never too late to change." Karen froze, surprised as the crowd turned toward her. Tom continued, "Karen reminded us that even when we lose our way, kindness can bring us back home." Applause filled the air. Karen's eyes welled up. She stepped forward slowly, humbled, and took the microphone. I don't deserve this," she said softly. "I came here thinking rules mattered more than people. I forgot what joy felt like. But you, every one of you, showed me grace. You reminded me that even when we're broken, we can still shine." The crowd went silent for a moment, touched. Then little Max shouted, "You shine really bright, Miss Karen." Everyone laughed and cheered, and Karen chuckled through tears. Just then, Lily whispered something to Tom, and he nodded. "Karen," he said, "we have a surprise for you." She blinked, confused, as the Carters led her toward the community tree. Beneath it stood a small table with a box wrapped in golden paper. Tom handed it to her. "Open it." Karen carefully unwrapped the box, her hands trembling. Inside was a framed photo, one of her and her husband Daniel smiling under a tree taken years ago. She gasped. "How did you—" Lily smiled gently. "Your neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, found this when she helped you move in. She said she thought you might want it back someday. Tears spilled down Karen's cheeks as she held the frame close to her heart. I thought I'd never see this again, she whispered. Tom placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. He'd be proud of you, Karen. You didn't just bring rules to this neighborhood, you brought light. You just forgot for a while. Karen laughed softly, wiping her tears. Then I guess it's time to stop being the Grinch of Willow Creek. The crowd roared with laughter and applause. Someone handed her a mug of cocoa, and Max climbed onto her lap to help her hang the final star on the tree. When the star touched the top, the entire park erupted in cheers. Suddenly, a soft chime rang out. The church bells from down the road began to play Silent Night. Everyone fell silent, gazing up at the shimmering lights and the falling snow. It felt almost magical. Karen looked around at all the smiling faces and whispered, This is what Christmas is supposed to be." And as if on cue, the snow began to glisten brighter under the lights, tiny sparkles reflecting from the ground like 1,000 little stars. Karen smiled up at the sky, feeling a warmth that no rulebook could ever provide. For the first time in years, her heart was full, not with control or fear, but with love. That night, Willow Creek wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a family,